Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I am your host, Dennis Batholkis, and this is Saturday Morning Blast Off. Well, um, so there's this little movie that got released this weekend called Avengers Endgame, and because of that, movie news is really scarce. I thought it was bad last week. This week it's wow. That's all I can say. So that's why I decided to do a spoiler-free version of the Avengers Endgame review. So there will be a spoiler version of this, of course, most likely this afternoon, just because there's some stuff I need to, you know, get off my chest and get out there. It's not that I didn't like the movie. I liked it. There's just little parts of it that kind of are niggling at my brain, as they say. So, yeah. Hello, welcome everybody. Stanley Tweedle, Stormy Scott, Moo Finobi, Scope Leather Up by Viking Bitch, Mark Maginot. How's it going? Who else is here? That's about it for right now. So yeah, they pretty much are minting money at this point. Might as well just start with that. So I was looking at some of the stuff here. Endgame is looking at a worldwide opening weekend take of over $1 billion. That's with a B, 1 billion, and that is for just the weekend, opening weekend worldwide. They've already seen a domestic take, 1 day take of $158 million, 1 day. So they're looking at 349 to $356 million domestic 3 day opening weekend. That's the estimate right now. Yeah, if you can guess, that is the biggest opening ever of a movie. So, yeah, it's amazing. Morks, I'm not spoiling anything, so you can be here. I'm not saying anything about the movie. And also, if anybody spoils it in the chat, I'm deleting you off of that. So that message will be deleted, and you might be banned for the just for this video, at least, if you spoil it in the chat. That's all I'm going to say about that. No one should be spoiling this movie for anybody else. It's not worth spoiling. That's an asshole move, really, is what it is. If that's what you get out of life, if that's your joy of spoiling a movie that took 10 years in the making of coming up with, that's pretty fucked up, you know. Yes, Daddy Spanks, exactly, Stormy Scott. No, I read something in Hong Kong. Some guy, I guess, got the shit kicked out of him outside of a movie theater for spoiling the ending, and he deserved it, quite honestly. So, from what I understand, he's hospitalized because the group of people actually beat the shit out of him, and you know, while I don't condone physical violence in that case, it was kind of warranted on that one. Hey, Kato Roan. Stanley Trails, I just found it so surprising that Santa Claus joined the Adventures. Nice. Yeah, and Batman and Big Bird too. I was kind of surprised by that because I didn't even know that Disney owned those properties. And Doctor Who for some reason. I don't know why. It's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, so huge opening weekend take on this one. It's eclipsed everything else this weekend. Yeah, I'm surprised that HBO just didn't say, you know what, we're going to postpone our third episode of the season for this weekend. Because, yeah, it's just amazing. Movie Finale says, I enjoyed the whole experience of Endgame leading up to hanging with my sister, the crowd, the movie itself. Like Dennis, I only had a few gripes, but given 21 movies to wrap up, impressive. Yeah, they've had 21 movies that they've gone through over 10 years. And they even say in the movie, they're talking about, they kind of allude to this a bit too, about the 10 years as well. So they're kind of self-aware of things and wrapping everything up. And it's and honestly, this is not the end of phase 4. If you remember, the end of phase 4 is technically going to be Spider-Man Far From Home, which opens in a couple of months here, like 2 months, something like that. Or is it next month? I think it's next month. Jeez. So yeah, that is the end of phase 4. Phase 3, excuse me. That's right. Sorry. Thanks, Stanley Tweedle. Phase. That's the end of phase 3 technically, and then phase 4 starts after that. So whatever phase 4 is going to be. Stanley Tweedle says, "Let's think too hard about plot holes, but no, it's not plot holes, Stanley. There's just little tiny, like I said, little things that when I thought it was okay during the movie, but afterwards when I was thinking about, it, I'm like, but what about? But what about? And I'm like, okay, you know." Silver Spike says, despite having a few flaws, I loved Endgame. I thought it was a good end to phase 3. Exactly. It's not the end of phase 3, by the way, Silver Spike. Spider-Man Far From Home is. Technically, that is the real end of phase 3, according to Fahey. Kevin Fahey. There we go. So, and I'm for it. A round of Giant's milk for all. Yeah, I'm surprised Tormund's milk mustache did not trend at all on Twitter. That would have been, that should have been a given right there. You know, Stanley Twiddle says, and I love how they took some time with the repercussions. Yeah, yeah. So to get into the spoiler-free review of the movie, I liked it. I mean, I did. I went and saw a 7:45 a.m. showing, 3 hours, which went by fairly quickly. I peed, just before the movie started because you know what, 3 hours, bladder, yeah, you know what, had to. There was no way. Um, for those of you who haven't seen it, if you want to know a good place to go and pee during the movie, and this isn't a spoiler thing, all I'm going to say is Hulk having breakfast. That's the point. You want to get up, run as fast as your ass can to the bathroom, pee, and then you can come on back without missing anything. That is the only point during the movie where you're not going to miss anything other than some comedic shit going on. That is it. That is about the only place you can go and pee during the movie, and that's a little more than a third of the way through the movie. So there you go. Stanley Tweedle says, I forgot to drink my beverage. I was so captivated. So no problem with number one. Yeah, Silver Spike, it is a funny scene, but at the same time, it's one of those things that isn't necessary to the plot. It doesn't. Everything else, I had seen something online where they were talking about different places that in the movie that you can actually get up and go to the bathroom during. And the other two, they mentioned three spots during the movie. The other two spots were horrible suggestions to get up during the movie and pee because they gave away, that was actually some good plot points right there in the other two. So, and yes, by the way, there are no end credit scenes, so you do not have to sit through the credits. There is nothing, right after mid credit scene, and there is no end credit scene, so you do not have to sit through the credits and wait for something going on. Just go, leave, go to the bathroom. You can avoid the crowds, all that kind of stuff. So, and yeah, and they wrapped everything up. That was the whole thing. Was it clean? No. But it's not supposed to be. That's the whole thing. It's if you've been watching these movies, nothing has ever been clean about what they've done. And that is part of it. There are repercussions of things that happen. There you know, Tony has always made mistakes because that is Tony. We've seen it with Age of Ultron. Yeah, it's what these characters do. They are flawed. They are not perfect. And all I'm going to say is that there is a scene in the movie that actually kind of explains that a little bit better about things. But I'm not going to ruin that, of course. So let me set. Scott says, "Oh, the end credit scene is usually a great part of the movie." Yeah, but there is nothing going on, so you don't have to worry about that. Stanley Tweedle, Switzerland is special that way. I know. I work there. Mark Maginot says in Swiss movie theaters, they always make a 10-minute break in the middle of the movies. Yeah, Mark Maginot, I am all for intermissions during movies. It's just for some reason, well, I know what the reason is. American theaters want to get as much money as possible out of people, so they don't care about having a 10-minute break because that means that's 10 minutes less for each movie, and that means that's one less movie they can show in that theater at the time for a 3-hour movie. But quite honestly, I am all for intermissions during movies. You need it sometimes. And honestly, there were quite a few places in this movie you could have paused in the middle of the movie, had an intermission, and not ruined the pace of the film. So it was easily done. Kato Run says, I'm not a fan of intermissions, though with the 2 to 3 hour movies, I would mind less. Yes. I don't think so, movie for Novi, not with this. There was a natural break in that place. Again, I would say that Hulk scene, Hulk having breakfast, that is a place where I would have put that intermission in, is right after that scene. Had the intermission right there because that was a natural place. Wouldn't it be good for concession sales? Yeah, Stanley Tweedle, but that is the movie theaters, not the movie studios. So the movie studios, what they do is they have a contract with the theaters that you have to show X amount of times for X amount of months. Lucas was notorious for this. I believe it was episode 2. After episode 1 had done so horribly in the long run, because he had, what did he say? He basically told theaters they had to have it for 3 months in their main theaters and things like that, and it died like after the first 2 weeks. Sales plummeted, and they took a bath. Movie studios took a bath on that one, and so when the second one came out, they were like, "Nope, we're not making that contract." After what happened with number one, if when episode 2 comes out, we'll see how it does, and if it does poorly, then we're moving it to the other small, 3-seat studio. That's what's going on, and we're not doing X amount of showings and all that kind of stuff. Movie for Nobody says some theaters have been open 24 hours or later to add more showings. Yeah, I know. I've been seeing that they've been going full bore on this one. Stanley Twill says, but it's strange that the Swiss can still do it. The last time I had a break in a movie was Return of the King. European theaters, it's a different story. It's the American theaters have contracts. Quite honestly, I'm just going to say this right now. The American business model of running things here is so fucking backwards. It's ridiculous. So they want to take as much advantage of people as possible. And people are like, sure, give me more. Bend me over the table. Viking Bitch says, because the giant multi-million-dollar movie studios don't care about theaters making money. Exactly. They don't. Yeah. All they care about is that their films make money. And that is the reason why you're getting this billion-dollar worldwide opening weekend, because they're showing it pretty much around the clock. Forget about those little students that are working for minimum wage in the concession stands or in the theaters. You got to come in and work that 2 a.m. shift, that 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. shift. Because we can't give you the full 8 hours. Because if we give you the full 8 hours, that means we have to cover your medical. I'm sorry, I can go on and on about that, but I don't want to go down that route. So back to the movie. Bend me over. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. So back to the movie. Yes, there is a natural break. That is the natural break in the movie to go and pee. It's a good movie. It wraps things up. It doesn't wrap it up neatly. And that's about all I can really say about it without spoiling things. It doesn't feel like 3 hours. It goes by fairly quickly. There are some spots where it drags a little bit, but it's just kind of like like a little tail drag for a second, and then it comes back up again. but pretty good overall. I mean, they ran a tight ship on this, the Russo brothers. They did. Slurmy Scott says I can go in afternoon, senior discount price. I can't afford the full price. I understand, Slurmy. Yeah, I found out. So I went into a really good theater that's here in San Diego that has Dolby Atmos, widescreen, all that kind of stuff, and they were charging full price at that time in the morning. They were not doing bargain matinee prices. Um, I have Cinemaya, which now I've got to go and file fraud charges against them because I found out just today that they announced that they are no longer doing. They're suspending all their um, business in the U.S. So Cinemaya was you spent so much, you bought an annual pass, and you were allowed. I think it was 3 or 4 movies a year or a month, excuse me, and you could use it any place you wanted to. Yeah. So that was the other movie item that I just found. Cinemaya closed completely in the US right before Avengers Endgame came out. So I'm trying to use my Cinemaya card. It's not working. It keeps, my renewal hasn't even come anywhere near kicking in. I started it last year, like in November. So I've got to actually call up my bank, put dispute charges on everything, and you know, there we go. Uh, well, they're in Turkey, Viking bitch. So most likely that's the reason why they put it out in Turkey so that they could, yeah. So I just need to put dispute charges on all of those payments and see what comes of it, if I can get that back or not. So yeah, it sucks big time. So Stanley Tweedle says I paid 15 euros, glasses not included. But yeah, I didn't see it in 3D. I'm glad I didn't see it in 3D. There's one scene where it's a handheld camera and someone's running and it's literally doing this. And if it was in 3D, I probably would have thrown up all over the place. So yeah, it's not a 3D movie. It really is not. If you're thinking of going to see it in 3D, don't. There's so much uh action that is whirring by on the screen that your eyes are not going to be able to separate out that 3D. You might as well just go and see it in 2D. Stanley Tweedle says, no choice at the time. I wanted to see it. Oh, okay. Giovanna Dotlick says, matinee, $2.70 in 2D today. Nice. Nice. Very nice. Stormy Scott says, I think you're right, Finobi. It's just a habit to go in the afternoons. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, everyone's different. But like I said, the 3D in this one, it's not going to play well in 3D. It really is not. I mean, I had problems with it on the widescreen. And granted, I was sitting, so I was in the back row of the first section of the theater because I inevitably end up with the one person behind me that kicks my seat repeatedly. So it has that nice big wide open space behind me. And I found myself playing a tennis match, going back and forth, looking at the screen, even though I was not that close up to the screen. Stanley Trail says it was bearable without the 3D. It would have been better. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of action. And that's what you want to see, of course, in a movie this size, of this magnitude, of course. Slurmy Scott says, I hate noisy kids in the theater, so I go on school day afternoons. Nice. Yeah, I do too. And well, I live near how can I be polite about this? The theater that I live closest to is a really kind of, even though it's a mall theater and it's not completely run down as of yet, it's there. It's pretty much. So the people who go to this movie theater, to put into effect, let's put it this way: I went and saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I had to move seats 3 times. One for a woman who just came in late and decided to talk to her son, like at volume. Another one for people like making out, you know, and then the third one because the guy decided to literally take pictures of the fucking screen with a flash photography with his phone during the movie. Yeah, those are the kind of people that go to this theater. So that's why I went to the more expensive theater that, yeah, I know Silver Spike, yes. And I'd like to say that was, not the norm, but that is the norm in that theater. Yes. And there's nothing that the ushers will do because those ushers are not getting paid enough to do anything. And the security guards, I don't even know if there are security guards in that theater. So Giovanna.lick says it was quiet in mine and I had 4 kids behind me and 7 high schoolers beside me. Nice. Yeah, no, when I went in, it was about 40% full, 45% full, something like that. It was actually fairly quiet when it ended too. No, normally there's an applause or something like that. No, nothing. There was a line that I was waiting for, across a couple of different movies that was finally uttered that I clapped at and everyone else remained silent. And I was like, okay, sorry, but that was awesome. Uh, Slurmy Scott says, Usher, I thought that was an extinct species. Yeah, it is. Silver Spike says you could hear people crying at the end of mine. Oh, wow. Uh, Gator Run says the Ushers probably have a side gig selling recordings themselves. I'm pretty sure they just recorded up in the booth. So, Mufinobi says our crowd was energized. There was some applause moments. I mean, there was laughter at the appropriate places where there's supposed to be laughter at and stuff like that. And, um, but yeah, there wasn't the energized crowd that I'm used to. I mean, if I had gone opening night, sure, it would have been a packed house, but I would have again had to have gone to the theater near me, and I was not about to deal with that bullshit. So it's not for this movie. I was not. Stanley Trail says I had the applause after the movie first time ever. Nice. Yeah, it's yeah. I'll say there's bittersweet moments in this. Silver Spike says I also bawled my eyes out at the end. Yeah, I had a couple of moments where, I got some dust in my eyes for some stuff, but, you know, not to say I cried or anything. But Mufinobi says, Dennis, have you heard definitively whether or not Stanley has a cameo in Homecoming? I had heard originally he recorded them, but more recently that Endgame was the last. From what I understand, Endgame is the last Stanley cameo. That was what I've been reading. I was going through the news this morning trying to find as much as possible, and I saw like several articles saying that this was his last cameo. Viking Bitch says, I haven't seen it, so I have no opinion. Stanley Tweedle, I have a lot of issues with allergies. Uh, Stormy Scott says, without spoiler, do you recommend the movie? Yeah, I do. If you have gone through and watched all of these Marvel movies, yes, this is the payoff of everything. This is where it's 10 years and 21 movies. Go and see number 22. I mean, it's it's the end of it. Wraps up everything. Yes, it does. Does it do it neatly again? No, it doesn't. That's the whole thing. That is what these Marvel movies have always excelled at, is they don't do it in a nice clean Disney bow, which was kind of funny, even though they're owned by Disney. Giovanna Dutleck says the high schooler beside me and I were in tears. We just looked at each other and grinned. Mufinobi says not Homecoming, the European vacation. Yeah. Daddy's gonna pork her at the table. Hey, Mr. Roboto. But you should have watched Infinity War first, is what Stanley Tweedle says. Yeah, I mean, definitely. If you haven't watched Infinity War first, then you have no business going into Endgame because it's basically the sequel to Infinity War. It really is. It's 2 movies that are back to back. You don't need to see Captain Marvel, quite honestly. Captain Marvel is a waste of film. Sure, it introduces the character, but you really don't need to see it other than you can read about it online to see who Captain Marvel is and then go and see the movie. That's really all you need to do about Captain Marvel. So, Mufinobi says, "What I liked was the character moments. It wasn't just let's keep making the movies bigger and crazier at the end. They gave room for the characters to breathe and satisfy arc payoffs." Yeah, exactly. And I did like the callbacks to other movies too that were in this, specifically some genre kind of movies that I can't go into because again it gives away a plot. So, uh, Mr. Roboto says, "Whenever Spider-Man shows up any place other than New York, it's a dead giveaway." Yeah, Silver Spike, it did. It started quiet and ended big. Exactly. Man. So Stanley Twill says a friend of mine wanted to watch it without seeing the previous one. No, that's stupid. That's like walking in halfway in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, granted, no, that's probably a bad one to go through. It's like walking in midway through the Matrix trilogy. I'll say that. After not having seen one or part of two or the first part of two, and you just walk in the middle of two, and then you go into number three. It's like, why? Why did you do that? So, Stormy Scott says, I have Infinity practically memorized. I love my Rocket group, Groot Thor scenes. Yeah. Great, Stanley Twiddle. That is the best advice. Yeah. Watch Infinity War first. Yeah. I have a lot of friends of mine that say that they haven't caught up on the rest of the Marvel movies. And I'm like, yeah, here's the Marvel movies you need to watch in order to catch up to this. Because some of them haven't even watched like Black Panther. And it's like, yeah, you need to watch Black Panther as well to know who that character is in order to, get into this. Otherwise, yeah, what's the point in watching Infinity War then at that point? Because Infinity War has Black Panther in it. There's a reason. Yeah. So Mufinobi says, Sis and I watched Infinity War Wednesday night. Nice. Yeah, and if you don't watch, any of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, you don't get any of that. I mean, anything that has the stones in it and the gauntlet in it, that's what you wanna watch. Except for Black Panther, of course, which doesn't have either, but Wakanda is a playing field in, Infinity War. I don't think that's really Yeah, and the Wasp, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, you can actually watch the end credit scene of that one and get away with it, but I agree with you, Stanley Tweedle. I actually say Ant-Man and the Wasp is something that you need to watch because it does, play into Endgame. So, Silver Spike says, "Without going into spoilers, I'm in 2 minds as whether or not I liked what they did to Thor's character. I actually liked what they did to Thor's character and where it's going. So, yeah, it's something that was kind of touched on in the comics. Uh, all of these actually touched on other storylines within Marvel Comics. Some controversial storylines in some way, shape, or form. It could have been a line that was thrown out there. It could have been a situation that was thrown out there. I was actually surprised that the Russo brothers went through as many storylines as they did, as quickly as they did, without having to delve into it by just adding a line in there. And you're going, okay, we're acknowledging this. And I thought that was actually awesome. They did a good job with that. Mr. Roboto says Ant Man shrinks down and then flies into Thanos' mouth and grows big. Victory. Yeah. Silver Spike says, yeah, I can guess where it all go, but I thought it was a bit crass in places. Mufinobi Roboto, laugh out loud. They had the Thanos game plan. Yeah. Yeah. The Gallstone Gauntlet. Uh, Yeah, Viking bitch. Black Panther was a good movie. Um, like I said, it has its place in the Marvel universe, in the MCU as well, and it is an important thing in this story. So that's why I'm saying it is one of those movies you need to watch before you go and see this. You can leave out the Hulk movies. You really don't need the Hulk movies for this, either one. Um, you can leave out the Captain Marvel movie. Um, you can quite honestly leave out the first Ant-Man movie. You really don't need that. The second Ant-Man movie, yes, you do. But so if you watch the second one, you might as well watch the first one. The second one is actually much more relevant to this story than the first one is. I'm trying to think of anything else. You can get rid of Iron Man 2. You really don't need that one. And that's about it, really. I mean, Mr. Roboto says, so Dennis, do you think there will be a Silver Sable movie? Yeah, there's Sony's still moving forward with it for some god unknown reason. So every other day they cancel it, then they put it back on. They cancel it, they put it back on. They cancel it and put it back on. Hey, Pen Farm Girl. Yeah, Iron Man introduced War Machine, true, Mr. Roboto, but he was in Iron Man 3 as well. So, I mean, you really don't need it. And the whip. Yeah, you really didn't need it. So there are movies that you can edit out of out of your viewing for the MCU. Venom isn't part of the MCU at all. Sorry. So there you go. Yes, Mr. Roboto, he was Iron Patriot in Iron Man 3. That's right. Stanley Tweedle says, "Do you think the Dark Phoenix will be any good?" I'm skeptical. I just read something about that originally the third act was supposed to take place in space, and now it does not. The entire third act was rewritten and reshot. So it now takes place on the ground, and they changed what was happening. So, and that's all because of the director and writer Simon Kinberg, who remember he's the one who was working with Bryan Singer this entire time, so it's still part of the Singer X-Men verse. I know Stanley Tweedle. They actually they shot that whole stuff, the whole space stuff. That's what we've seen already in the trailers, and they've taken that out now and they've moved it on to something else. We've seen the new stuff in the trailers as well right now, and I am not. Uh, I'm pretty sure this is going to be probably the shittiest X-Men movie that we've seen in a while. That's where I'm going with this. It's going to be the nail in the coffin for the X-Men movie, kind of like The Gifted was for X-Men on TV, which thankfully got canceled. Pen Farm Girl says, Stanley, I originally thought it should be canceled, but the trailer looks really good. Huh. Does it take place in somebody's back garden now? No, it takes place on aboard a train. That's all I'm going to say. And if the train goes under 55 miles an hour, explodes. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Or maybe I'm not. Who knows? Mr. Roboto says they can't afford space or scrolls or Kree or Shi'ar. Yeah, I think they cut out the whole Shi'ar thing completely, which is a shame. That's where they should have gone with this. Mr. Roboto says I like The Gifted while it existed, so I can watch it. I'm sorry, Mr. Roboto. Yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea. It was always alluding to the X-Men and never being the X-Men. That's the whole thing. It never had the mutants. It didn't have the budget, really. It didn't have the budget to do what it needed to do. I'm actually kind of feel sorry for Matt Nix because I really like him as a story writer and a story runner. So I I, I don't know where he went with that. It just really kind of sucked. for me. Mr. Roboto says, so Emma Frost. Well, I don't know if they're going to do Emma Frost in the Phoenix Saga or not. Yeah, they can afford Stephen Moyer. Strange. I don't think they paid all that much to Stephen Moyer, to tell you the truth. Especially if you can tell by his acting. His acting was at the bottom of the barrel for the group that they had. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. So what else do I have here? So Netflix finally officially canceled the Santa Clarita Diet after 3 seasons. We finally got the official word that it is canceled. Done. Finito. I know I talked about that last week, but it was kind of rumored that it was going to be canceled, and now they've officially brought down the hammer and said, "Yep, no more. We're not doing it anymore." As they put it, it had a nice cult following, which is a polite way of saying your ratings sucked balls, and not in the good way. Also, Pen Farm Girl says, "I'm not rushing out opening day. I'll wait to see what people say." Oh. Yeah, for the Phoenix Saga, the X-Men Phoenix Saga, I know it's just gonna suck. It's Simon Kinberg, man. The guy's been stuck in the '90s, just like oh god, Love, Death and Robots. I can't remember one of the guys that was on there. He's like stuck in the '90s too. Kato Roan says, "Have you ever watched The Magicians? Any thoughts on the season finale?" Kato Roan, I tried watching The Magicians, but I honestly don't like any of the characters on there. Uh, the only thing I've ever watched is I watched the tail end of it while I was waiting for Happy to start because it was on right before Happy, so I would have it on so that I could go roll right into Happy. And I know a good majority of what's going on the show, and it's never interested me. It just you think it would, but it just I don't know what it is. The characters just annoy the shit out of me. I don't know what it is about them. Stanley Twiddle says, "For Dark Phoenix, I will wait and see what the internet says because that must be true." Exactly. Mr. Roboto says, "So he is in the '90s. So he's Hootie and the Blowfish, forgotten but not dead." Yeah, still out on tour with what's left of the Grateful Dead. Kidderun says, "That's fair. It doesn't click. It doesn't click." Yeah, I tried, man. I really did. Um, it's the same thing with another show that somebody here likes that's been gone for a while that I can't get into. So something about having to do with space and whatnot and Muppets. She knows what I'm talking about. Let's see what else I got here. Oh, we got the teaser trailer for Swamp Thing that comes out on May 31st on DC Universe. And it looks pretty damn good. But now I can see why they got cut from 13 episodes down to 10 episodes. They spent a shitload of money on that thing. A shitload of money on it. It looks like a feature film. It looks like a James Wan horror film, and I'm pretty sure they're burning through a lot of money fairly quickly. And that's the reason why DC Universe is like, no. You've gone through your budget now. Episode 10, excuse me, is going to be your last episode. You make it work somehow. And that's what they did, is they cut the legs out from under them for that one. And that's the reason why production halted on episode 10, was so they could rewrite it and make it the season finale. So Mr. Roboto says, "Swamp Thing will make your heart sing. He is everything Swamp Thing." Yeah, he's kind of out of frame here, but there's a Swamp Thing right on the edge here. So here, I'll actually just do that. Do a little bit that way. See, there he is. There's Swamp Thing. Actually, I'll leave it like that. There you go. Swamp Thing looks like a horror story is what Viking Bitch says. Yeah, it is. It's going to be a horror story is really what it's going to be. And I'm okay with that. That's perfectly fine. The Alan Moore version of Swamp Thing is a horror story. That's the way it's written. It really is. So having James Wan doing it is fine. Um, I'm just hoping it's gonna hold up, especially after Doom Patrol, man. I mean, Doom Patrol is so good that with the writing and everything, I'm hoping that the writing holds up to this and we don't backslide into Titans because Titans was just fucking horrible. Stormy Scott says after 88 episodes of Farscape, the characters feel like old friends. I tried Stormy, I just couldn't get into it. Sorry. Um, Mr. Roboto says, why were the X-Men rescuing astronauts? That's more of an Avengers thing. There was a whole time, Mr. Roboto, in the comics when the X-Men were kind of spacefaring as well. So they had a plane that could actually go into space. And sorry if you're hearing this kid fucking bawling right now, but it's right outside my door and I can hear it too. So that's part of the spawn of Satan that are outside my door. So apologize. Oh, you don't hear a thing? Perfect. I hear it. So Kato Run says I half expected Swamp Thing to show himself at the swamp in Doom Patrol's previous. Yeah, I did too, Kato Run. I was kind of wondering if they were going to, if this was going to be the thing that they were going to do, was whatever previous show was going to showcase the next show that was coming up. So like Titans had Doom Patrol. If Doom Patrol was going to introduce Swamp Thing, Swamp Thing, so on and so forth. Stargirl, all that kind of stuff. That would have been awesome. Ah, man. Isn't Swamp Thing in Alabama? No, he's not. He is in Florida in the Everglades. So, yeah, Francis became somebody's luggage. Lighten up, Francis. Stormy Scott says, while you admit your Farscape sin, I will admit I just can't get interested in the Tick. Please don't shun me. That's fine, man. I understand. I can perfectly understand why you don't get into the Tick. It's a sense of humor that you might not get or agree with or anything like that. Yeah. Yeah, same here. What's it called? A hidden pilot? I don't know. My God, that kid's just screaming every time I decide to talk. Is it great? Stanley Tweedle? What are you talking about? Sorry, I don't know what the reference is into. So let's see what else I've got here. One of the last things I've got here. Like I said, the news was very, very tight this week. Joe Greer actually sent this out to me. Joe Greer the third. Thank you for sending me this. The Warrior, as it's called on Cinemax, got renewed for a second season, only 3 episodes in. And of course, the reason for that is it's low budget. It's doing very well on Cinemax right now, and it's done by the same guys who did Banshee. So it's hitting the same target audience because it's the same show, only just set in 1878, San Francisco, and it has a lot of martial arts in it. So there you go. Skinemax, yes, that's what they still call it, Mufinobi. Although they got rid of a lot of the softcore porn stuff. I mean, supposedly. There is still a lot of softcore porn within Warrior. That's all I'm going to say. No more so than, Game of Thrones, but Silver Spike says the new series or the movie because in my opinion, the movie is better. Movie Novi says I tried watching What We Do in the Shadows, just couldn't get into it. We are all entertained in slightly different ways. Yeah, I haven't gotten to it yet, to tell you the truth. I wasn't a big fan of the movie either, but it's It's the humor. I know it's the Kiwi humor. I don't think it works with me. I don't think it touches me the way it touches other people. Not in a good way. So, oh, you're talking about the Tick. Is it great? The Tick, Stanley Tweedle. I think so, but then again, I was a fan of the comic, the cartoon, the first Fox series with Patrick Warburton, and also this one as well. It's pretty damn funny, as far as in my opinion, I think it's funny. Stanley Tweedle says that low budget because the Chinese work so cheap. Oh, Stanley Tweedle, no, that's bad. Although they make that reference all the time in that show. There is the whole so what's going on in the show right now is that a lot of Chinese workers are coming in, like they were doing into San Francisco, and they're taking job from the Irish. And the Irish at the time were working very cheaply, but the Chinese are working for even like half of what the Irish would work for. So it is, yeah, it's very you're seeing a lot of the history. It's kind of funny because we're seeing a lot of history repeating itself in this show without really having to dig into it all that much. They are not overtly going, okay, this is a correlation with what's going on today. Here's rubbing your nose in it. No, all they're doing is saying, this is what happened. And they're actually, as part of a B plot of the storyline and of the main storyline of what's happening with the main character. And you're going, oh, yeah, so this is exactly what happened, over 100 years ago is happening now. So, Mufinobi says HBO ditched their adult content after leadership change. It was a shame, not for gratuity, but they actually had some interesting series. Plus, I grew up with real sex. Everyone grew up with real sex, Mufinobi. Oh, you meant the series. I'm sorry. I thought it was something else. Viking Bitch says, I've been a fan of the Tick since the comics, so I love the new incarnation. Yeah. And it's kind of funny. Ben Edlund only was involved with the comics for the first, I think, 10 issues, 12 issues, something like that. And then he went off into Hollywood and started doing the cartoons and whatnot. So it's pretty funny that that's where he jumped off from and started doing writing and all this kind of stuff. And someone else had taken over the series, the comic series. It was a very small independent press called New England Comics, which still exists. I mean, they still print it out because that's all they use the Tick as a crutch. That is their main comic, and that is what sells for them. But yeah, Ben Edlund, that's where he did the jumping off point and went straight into Hollywood from there. Mr. Roboto says, other than Doom Patrol and Black Mirror, why get Netflix account? Because there's a lot of stuff that's on there. There is Sabrina the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is really good. Santa Clarita Diet was good until they canceled it. You can get the whole series of iZombie that's on there, which the new and final season starts on Thursday, which I'll be covering. So, plus a whole other things. They are doing something like 900 movies and TV shows this year. That's what they're releasing, over 900 of them. New stuff, not old movies and all that kind of stuff like that. So there you go. It's on the DC streaming service. Oh, Doom Patrol. Yeah, Doom Patrol's on DC streaming. Sorry, DC Universe is what it's called. So, where else are we here? Pen Farm Girl says, I'm liking what we do in the shadows, and I like the movie. I haven't tried Warrior yet. I need to check it out. It's based on Bruce Lee's writings. He had taken down notes that eventually got stolen and became Kung Fu. But his daughter found his handwritten notes of what he really wanted Kung Fu to be. And that's what this is. This is actually taken from Bruce Lee's notes. And the guy acts kind of like Bruce Lee in the movie, the main character. And of course, that's by design. Yes, Mufinobi, Alien did turn 40 yesterday. I turned 40 several years ago myself as well, Mufinobi. So yes, I understand. Yes. Let's see. Kato Run says, "Love Warrior. Thanks for suggesting it, or I wouldn't have known it exists." Yeah, I happened to stumble across it myself, Kato Run. I'm glad you're enjoying it as much as I am. I need to watch the latest episode because I didn't get a chance to see it last night. Yeah, last night. I had to think. I actually fell asleep last night. Otherwise, I would have done more work for this podcast for today's. Oh, no, no, it's not my birthday today, Silver Spike. Thank you, though. It was I said my 40 years was a long time ago. So, uh, a little crispy tenders, we're not doing any spoilers in this one. So, yeah. So, that's all I'm going to say. There we go. And yeah. So, little crispy tenders, just so you know, no spoilers in this podcast. This is a spoiler-free zone for the Avengers Infinity War, or excuse me, Avengers Endgame. This is a spoiler-free. I already did the spoiler-free review. Anybody who puts spoilers, like I said before, in the chat here, the message is going to be deleted. So, and if you continue to do it, then I end up just kicking you off for a couple of days, for a little while. So, yeah, it's not funny. It's not cool. It's a dick move, quite honestly. And like I said before, I just read about some guy in Hong Kong who got the shit kicked out of him and put in the hospital outside of a theater for spoiling the Endgame movie results. And I'm kind of okay with that. So, Mr. Roboto, we then know no one say that word. Exactly. Andrej Marek just got back from the Avengers Endgame. Pretty emotional, 8.5 out of 10. The massive cringe of Captain Bree and her Mary squad. Uh, yeah. You know what? Captain Marvel was very downplayed in this movie. I was okay with that. Uh, Stormy Scott says, Dennis, you may have to get something off your chest. So take off. No, I'm not taking off my shirt. Sorry, Stormy. I know you've been trying to get that to happen. It ain't happening. Ricardo Aspie says, are you going to review Cobra Kai someday? Oh, I don't know, Ricardo. I know the second season has dropped, and I don't know if I have the bandwidth in order to cover another uh, show at the moment. I'm going to watch it, of course. I have to at some point, and if I do, it's just going to be I'm going to review the entire season. I'm not, all at once, not episode by episode. So, yeah. There we go. Yeah, I know second season of I've been hearing about it, and I'm trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible for Cobra Kai. Mr. Roboto says, with so much streaming, what streamings do you subscribe to currently? What apps do I subscribe to? Well, right now, I actually, since I switched back over to cable gave me a great deal. They gave me all the movie packages. So I have HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, Movie Channel, Stars, all that kind of crap for under $50 a month. So that was, I was like, okay, cool. I have Netflix. I got rid of Hulu because there's really nothing on Hulu now that Future Man isn't going to be on for about a year. Um, I have DC Universe. I'm trying to think of anything else. That's pretty much it. So it's just Netflix and DC Universe are the only two subscriptions that I have going on there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because everything else is either on TV. Cobra Kai is YouTube Premium, but I think I can do a free trial on that one and burn through, uh, the entire season. And yeah, you can go and do some internet searching on that, Slurmy, and find it. That's for sure. Not for me though. You won't find any of me, but I'm talking about you'll find some stuff out there. Stanley Twill says DC Universe not for much longer. Possibly not. With Warner Media coming out, I talked about that last week. CBS streaming has Twilight Zone. Yeah, I know, Mr. Roboto. I will not subscribe to CBS. What is it? All Access. CBS All Access. That's it. Yeah, it's just not worth it. They have what, two shows: Star Trek Discovery and Twilight Zone, and neither one is good. So it's not worth it. Yeah. And like I've said, I don't review shows that I'm not into, and it's just not worth my time to hate watch shit. There are plenty of other YouTube channels out there that hate watch stuff, and they have, thousands of viewers because people love, listen to people bitch about that kind of stuff. I just don't think it's healthy, one, and quite honestly, I don't want to waste my time doing it. Stanley Twill says, anyone has an opinion on the Orville finale? I'm not talking to you, Dennis. You know what? I caught the very beginning of it, Stanley. So much so that I'm actually going to go and watch it. I'll see what it looks like. It looked interesting. That's all I'm going to say. Mr. Roboto says Twilight Zone might get good. Yeah, see, might isn't a selling point for me. Yeah, exactly, Silver Spike. People love illogical hating. I don't understand the need to bitch about things. If you are going to sit there and bitch about a show or something like that, stop watching it. That's all you need to do. Just stop watching it. If it bothers you that much. I mean, you know, unless you're being sit there, you're strapped down in a chair a la, Clockwork Orange and having your eyes strapped open and being forced to watch it, change the fucking channel or turn off the TV, go outside, talk to people, read a book, you know. Uh Slummy Scott says Amazon has dropped the original Outer Limits from 1963. So many plots that have been stolen for later movies. Yeah, exactly. Uh Also, the Outer Limits, when they redid them in the 90s, were pretty cool too. Those were actually good stories. That they had them for a while there for like I want to say it was like 5 years. They had a series going on. Mufinobi says I stopped Orville after the two-parter with the android. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Andrej Merrick says Orville season finale was somewhat of a letdown for me. The Identity two-parter was, in my opinion, the peak of this season. Yeah. For me, it was the start was very rough on that one. It just was a lot of pee jokes and things like that. And I had seen these episodes before, years before, so I it really didn't do anything for me. But like I said, I was interested enough in seeing the first like 5 minutes of this week's season finale, I guess you could say, for Orville, that I'll go back and I'll watch the last episode and see what it looked like. I'm not holding out, any hopes on it. Just I'll take a look at it. Where are we here? So Kitaron says, I've been in a place where my own confirmation bias has gotten in the way of enjoying a show. I got better after I did some rethinking. Yeah, I mean, you really have to you kind of have to empty your mind sometimes when you go into something. I like Shazam. I'll take Shazam for example. I thought it was going to be kind of crap for the most part, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go into this. I'm going to watch it for what it is. I'm not going to have any expectations on it. I'm just going to go in. Turns out to be one of the best superhero movies I've seen in a long time from DC. Quite honestly, one of the best superhero movies I've seen in a while. Period. So that's a lot to say. Hi, Dennis. Number 2, no spoilers. Movie Fanobi. What was that? What was that? Burleson. Oh, okay. Dennis number 2. That's what you are. Dennis Burleson. Hey, Dennis Burleson. Yeah, Dennis Burleson, there's no spoilers in this podcast for Avengers Endgame. We actually just had to remove a comment because someone was spoiling something. So yeah, no spoilers in the chat, no spoilers on the podcast for it. So Silver Spike says, "Did you see that Sigourney Weaver visited the kids that put on the Alien School play? They were so delighted." Yeah, a lot of people have been visiting those school kids that have been doing the Alien play. I want to say that Ridley Scott had, I think he saw a video of it and mentioned it. But yeah, I know that she actually went and visited the school itself. So, Mr. Roboto, Dennis is now a super demigod waiting for lightning. You're talking about Dennis Burleson or? Stanley Tweedle says, "Let go of the hate, except for STD. Okay, I'm a hypocrite." uh, Slurmy Scott says, "That's a shocker. Dennis Shazam has been bad mouth since announced." No, it's actually really good, Slurmy. Go and see it. It's a lot of fun. It's it really is. It's just actually kind of a joyful movie. That's really what it is. It's kind of um a celebration of a superhero from a kid's point of view. It still has some, good adult moments in it as well, but really it's a lot of fun. It really is. So, yeah, if you haven't had a chance to go and see it, that's been one of the highlights of the year. Mr. Roboto says, "Dennis, do you think sci-fi will redo the Outer Limits in 2020?" No. If they haven't announced it by now, they're not going to do it. So and remember, sci-fi is owned by NBC. I don't think NBC has the rights to Outer Limits, if I'm not mistaken. I forget who does have the rights on that one. Yeah. But no, I'm okay with that. I don't want to see Outer Limits redone. I don't want to see Twilight Zone redone, quite honestly. And just like that, thank you guys for kicking that asshole out of there. So let's see. We're actually going to ban him completely. So, sorry, I have to do this live on the channel, but there we go. And done reported. So, sorry about that, guys. Had a troll. Had a troll. Had to be gone. Most likely it is crispy, is what I'm thinking. So, yeah. But who cares at this point? Viking Mitch says, "Gee, I wonder who could have tried to come back as someone else besides he is pissed that he was timed out." Yeah, I know. Quite honestly, I don't care. Uh, he's probably going to come back in a couple of minutes with some other thing, and we'll just delete him then. Is what we'll do. Not a big deal. So anyway, on to happier stuff. Um, yeah, I really don't want to see another version of the Outer Limits. I mean, the 90s version of it was really good. They did a good job of it. Somebody says, "Speaking of redone, the new Tales of the City on Netflix comes on in June. They are updating it. Why mess with perfection?" I didn't watch Tales from the City, Stormy Scott, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, they're again. Why take chances with something new is what studios say, and so that's the reason why we keep seeing this happen over and over and over again. HR, why bother wasting the time trolling? Never got the point. Yeah, because he's a bored 14-year-old. Exactly. So there we go. Well, maybe the Outer Limits 2040. Yeah, God, this live action shit that Disney's doing of their animated show, the animated movies, Lion King, Aladdin. I'm hoping Aladdin crashes and burns. It really needs to, because if it crashes and burns, they may rethink the Lion King releasing that. Um, What was it I just read recently? So Disney, when they took over Fox, of course, when that was all said and done, I guess Disney has been quietly slashing productions all across the Fox board. And yeah, Mouse Guard, I talked about last week, was one of them that was supposed to be 2 weeks before it was going into production, and Disney killed it. That's not the only one. They're supposedly they've done over 40 movies now, from what I understand, that they've killed. It hasn't really made the news, but I'm hearing rumbling of it going on out there. Ejar says, "Sorry, I guess I had more time to fill when I was a wee lad, but that was in a far off land called the '80s." Yeah, Ejar, we had a lot more things to do in the '80s because we didn't have the internet, so we had a lot more time on our hands. Stanley Trio says, "Who can I hit for killing Mouse Guard?" Probably Iger is what I'm thinking. Caterone says MGM had the rights to the Outer Limits in '95, but then got sold to Sony and Comcast. Ooh, Mr. Colon, seriously? Come on, guys. So who owns the IP now? That's a good question, Cato. It's probably still Sony. Sony probably still owns it. So, any news about the DCU scrapping Swamp Thing? Andrej, it's not scrapped. It's still coming out May 31st. It's just been reduced from 13 episodes down to 10. And like I said, they just released a teaser trailer. More than likely, they went way over budget, and that's the reason why they brought it down to 10 episodes. So I'm pretty sure that's the reason why. So to wrap things up, Stormy Scott says, "Did you see that Roy Disney's granddaughter is campaigning that Iger makes 1,400 times?" Yeah, I saw that, and I agree. I mean, it's been obscene. We've seen this in the last couple of decades that CEOs and all this stuff make way, 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 way more money than the average worker, while we've seen average workers' wages drop. But that's neither here nor there for this podcast. Mr. Roboto says they could do Swamp Thing with a lower budget. I saw Swamp Thing 3, well, clips. Yeah. And there's a reason why Swamp Thing 3 was the last Swamp Thing that you ever saw. Uh, no, Stanley Twill, she's not campaigning for him to get 14 times the money. She's saying that, why is he making 1,400 times more than the average worker? So there we go. So she was complaining about that. So anyway, should you go and see Avengers Endgame? If you've watched all of them up until this point, yes, go and see it. It's a good movie. It's worth your time. It's worth the 3 hours. Um, where do I put it within the Marvel movies? It's in the top 10. I don't know where exactly in the top 10, but it's in the top 10. Ejar says, geez, if they've tapped this for source material, then they're all the public domain, sci-fi type, and pulp mag stuff that's easily available online. You don't even have to track it physically down. True. Yeah. Uh, Brian Fisher, hey y'all. I wish DC would stop cutting episodes at the end of production. It's not that. I'm pretty sure they went over budget. I talked about it earlier. Silver Spike says, if you're a Marvel fan, it's an event movie. Exactly. It's an event movie. It's something to go and see. So I am going to let you guys go for the day. I'm probably going to come back later this afternoon to do a spoiler version of Endgame. So we can talk about all kinds of stuff. I will let you guys know probably on here. I'll set it up an hour beforehand so everyone gets the notification. So if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the like button. If you don't like what you see, you can hit the dislike button. Just I ask, go down the comment section. Tell me what you didn't like about it. Give me a little constructive criticism. Also, you can hit the there we go. Seriously? That is not the same Mr. Roboto, too, by the way. I already know that because Mr. Roboto already left for the day. So, where was I? Hit the little bell if you want to be notified when I'm going to be on live next. And you can also go inside the bell settings itself and see how often or how not often you want to get notifications of that. Don't hit it if you've already hit it before because that will unclick it. Let's see. My schedule is up on suspendedfanimation.com. You can also find it on Facebook. I also have a Twitter and I have an Instagram as well. So there we go. If you're still on the fence about joining up, you can see that there is going to be a video up here. If you like what the video has up there for you to take a look at, you can hit the subscribe button. That's going to be up on this side. Thank you, everybody. I wish there was more news, but there isn't, unfortunately. Kiddo says, Dennis, aren't you worried about all the people will only leave negative comments? You don't ask to leave positive ones. I've had enough people leave positive reviews. No one leaves any negative stuff. And I've had one or two that have, they're just asshole trolls that I've deleted. So nothing big, kiddo. It's been good for the most part. I don't have to police it too bad. So I know, kiddo. All right. So I will let you guys go for the day. Have a good day. Again, take a look at the videos, hit the subscribe button over there. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may have a bunch of asshole trolls come in and try and spoil the end of a movie that doesn't need to be spoiled in the chat. See you, everybody. Have a good day.